Good evening. It is now a couple minutes after 6. I'm going to go ahead and call this council meeting to order on this 27th day of January. And before we get started, I just want to thank all of you all for coming out. It's always a pleasure to see all of you all here. Our chairman, David Ferguson, is on a mission trip with his church to Africa. So he is out, so I will be conducting the meeting today. So again, thanks for coming out. If I can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Can I get a second? You've heard the motion and it's been properly seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is carried. Ms. Kinley, can you give us our invocation, please?
Glad to. Would you all let's bow in prayer, but before we do, Miss Ferguson, Jane Ferguson, David's wife, called a few minutes ago, and their son is in the hospital, has been, again, with another kidney stone, which he's very unfortunately has to deal with kidney stones after kidney stones. He now has pneumonia, and they have a lot of complications, and they have taken him today to the Providence Hospital. So I just ask, if you would, I'm going to do a moment of silent prayer, and let's pray for his health issues, and also for David and the church's group, Traveling Mercies. Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight as a group, and we thank you for the many, many blessings that you have given to each and every one of us. Some we see and some we do not. But we thank you for being our Lord and Savior and walking through this life with us. I ask that you continue to give us your love, your grace, and your mercy. We so need them to be able to deal with our lives. I ask that you bless every family that is represented in this room tonight, and that you will listen to the needs that all these family members have, and just be with them through the joys or through the sorrows, whichever it may be. We ask that you be with all of those who are fighting or trying to protect our freedoms, all on foreign shores. We ask that you lift their families up and consider their needs and be with them while their loved ones are protecting us on foreign soil for our freedom. Be with us in our meeting tonight. I ask for good communications. I ask for peaceful decisions to be made, and just be with all those who are doing presentations tonight. All these things I ask in your precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Kinley. The minutes from our regular meeting on January the 18th were sent out, so hopefully you all had a chance to look through those, and if so, can I get a motion to approve those minutes from our...
Mr. Chairman.
Second. Thank you. It's been properly moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? There are no opposers. Motion carried. Thank you very much. At this time, we will have some public presentations. Ms. Brown, if you would you call our presenters up?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council, and for the audience, the first presenter tonight is from Midlands Fatherhood Coalition of Fairfield. Mr. Rudolph Walker is the director.
Good evening. How are you doing this evening? First of all, let me say thank you and Happy New Year to everyone. Let's hope it's a blessed one. Oh, y'all couldn't hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, I didn't think I needed that. But as Ms. Brown was saying, I'm the site director at the Midlands Fatherhood Coalition. It's a program that works with non-custodial and custodial fathers. We assist them with, basically, our number one mission is to reintegrate these fathers with their children and families. And we do this in a number of ways, as far as relationships, parenting, education, and also with employment. And I just want to take and highlight a few things to the council this evening, because without your continued support, our program could not make it through and do the things that we allow and are able to take and do as far as fathers are concerned. Last year we were able to serve 86 men. We're currently enrolled with 48. 19 of these men are currently employed. We had 8 participants to enroll in GED classes. Two of these participants have received their GED certification. We had several participants that were assisted with rental assistance, utility assistance, and these programs and this assistance, the funds that are being used, if not for the Fairfield grant, we would not be able to take and do this because of some of our underfunded funding sources don't allow us to take and serve our participants up under some of these headings. So it is with your continued participation and support of our program that we are allowed to take and do these things. So like I say, it's just thank you. We had 4 participants that were assisted with utility assistance. 4 are currently enrolled in training, 2 CDL and 2 welding. We had 17 of our participants that increased their visitation time with their children. We had 8 participants who successfully completed our 24-week curriculum. And what that is we have a curriculum of parenting, economic stability, and healthy relationships. And also, we've just started another program. It's called an employment boot camp. And what this is, all our new enrollees that enroll into our program, they are required to participate in an employment boot camp. And we run them through, how to take and do their resumes, interviewing skills, how to dress, and basically how to take and get that employment once that opportunity is presented to them. And so it's just a requirement now that they do participate in the employment boot camp. We had three of our participants got married, and I'd like to thank because of the relationship curriculum that happened. We had two participants to receive temporary custody of their children, 2 participants that purchased vehicles, 2 participants obtained their own housing. We had 16 of our participants that completed our program's employment boot camp. You got me sweating. And a total of $53,972.27 of court-ordered child support was collected and paid last year. And one of our father-child activities that we were able to provide last year, we put on a back-to-school bash, which was originally supposed to be just for our fathers, but somehow or another, the word got out, and we had over 200 people to attend this back-to-school bash. And with the assistance of, like I say, the council, and also some of our community partners, we were able to provide a little over 120 kids with back-to-school supplies. I'm good. Questions?
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Walker? Councilman Marshall.
Mr. Walker, I just want to say that I have had the pleasure of attending several of your meetings. I've even had the pleasure of you allowing me to do a training with the young folks. And so I keep pretty much track about what you're doing. I really appreciate the tremendous work that you're doing. It's very difficult. And these are young people or people that have to navigate to an extremely social order. And you're doing a magnificent job with them, and I'm certainly be willing to help you in any way I can. I was just wondering how many other council members attend your meeting, how many might have given a training to some of the young people or come talk to them.
Well, that invitation is always open for any and everybody, because we could also use it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Marshall. Mr. Brown?
Yes, explain where your participants come from.
Well, we like to say we like to take and meet them where they come from, as far as just in the neighborhood, basically around here, Winsboro, Greenbrier, Blackjack, Ridgeway. We also have another body we call our ATI participants. These are young men that I'm in family court at least once a month, that we get the family court judges to mandate to our program for at least 6 months. And what happens is, whatever sentence that the judge is going to give these young men, he put that in abeyance and allow them to complete our program. But if they don't follow the guidelines of the program, whatever sentence that was going to be passed down upon them, then I just take and do an affidavit and turn it into family court, and a bench warrant is immediately answered. And what it is The program is not a get out of jail free card, you know, so we're trying to work with them, like I say, assist them with employment, if it's education, relationship issues, visitation issues, whatever it is that's going to make them successful, our program is there to assist them with it.
However, by doing that, it's keeping us from having to house them at the jail and costing taxpayers money.
Exactly.
And saving us quite a bit of money.
Yes, sir.
Because a person in jail costs the county around $30,000 to $35,000 a year. So if we can keep 10 people spending 6 months up there, it saves us a whole lot more than what we're giving
And
out.
that's the general purpose of the mandate.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Walker, I would just like to say, I know that it takes funding to run a program like this, but I would venture to say that the life skills that you're teaching these young men is invaluable. The relationships that they then turn around and build with their children, they probably feel empowered. And like Mr. Brown was saying, they become productive citizens. And I think that's the most important thing. They're building a relationship, but they're also being empowered in the process. So the life skills part of it is a great process as well. So
Yes,
so thank you.
see, and that's the main part, because once learning the background and history of a lot of these young men that we work with, we come to find out that a lot of them didn't have positive role models in their lives. So when we are allowed to give them those necessary skills so that their children don't have to take and relive, as we can say, we're trying to take and break that cycle.
Well, I agree. I think it's not only an investment in the person's future, but in this county's future as well, which is what we want to do. Councilman Marshall, were you going to say something else?
Yes, one question, Mr. Chair. I was going to ask, when you said employment boot camp, program of employment, is that mandatory? Is that a new program that you're initiating?
Yeah, it's mandatory if the program is to assist you with employment in any way, as far as transportation, work equipment, clothing, setting up a job interview. You have to go through this employment boot camp, and unfortunately and fortunately, word on the street is if you want a job, go to the father of the program. We're not an employment agency, but because of our program and word of mouth, a lot of employees know what we do and what we're trying to do, so we often get calls for openings. And the purpose of the employment boot camp is that if we're going to send you on a job, we want to take and make sure you are prepared, and because you're not only representing yourself, but you're also representing our program, and you're opening that door so that someone behind you could also take it and have that same opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Kinley?
Mr. Walker, did you bring any of your gentlemen with you tonight?
Not tonight, not
Usually
tonight.
you do. I was just going to recognize them if you did. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you, Mr. Walker. Thanks for coming out, okay?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Ms. Brown, would you call our next presenter, please?
Yes, sir. Fairfield County 4-H and Youth Development, Miss Angela Jones.
Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone. Again, my name is Angela Jones. I'm the 4-H agent for Fairfield County. And I would first of all like to thank all of you for your support, your continued support since I've been on board with Clemson Extension here in Fairfield. The first item is I would like to announce the fact that Clemson Extension will be celebrating its 100th year anniversary of the Smith-Lever Act this year. That's just a tidbit of information for you. Back in December the 9th through the 13th, I attended the PSA conference up at Clemson University, Clemson, South Carolina. And that conference consists of agents statewide for professional development as well as updates that are going on with extension services. Back in October, 4-H was at the Rock Around the Clock Festival. And I announced at the last presentation that I did for you all a few months ago that we were implementing, 4-H has implemented what we call Youth Voice, Youth Choice, which is a healthy lifestyles program, and is funded by Walmart. It's a grant-funded curriculum that's funded by Walmart. And the goal was to target fourth graders in all counties. So in Fairfield County, we are targeting fourth graders in the schools that have agreed to participate, and I've actually implemented the program at McCrory Liston, Fairfield Elementary School, and Richard Wynn Academy. And thus far, the kids are really, really enjoying it, and I'm enjoying working with all of them. I've done an embryology project with the Fairfield Career and Technology Center with Mr. Ernest Manning's class, and that turned out very, very nice. Out of 12 eggs, we had 11 that actually hatched, and the youth were very, very excited about the chicks when they got here. I got to go back over and check on them again. Fairfield Teen Leadership Club, we have two clubs. I have a Fairfield Leadership Club, and I have a Sandhill Teen Leadership Club. Fairfield Teen Leadership Club visited and shared with Tanglewood, the residents at Tanglewood Nursing Home, back on December 21st. We took gifts to the residents, and we didn't sing carols because they were kind of shy. They didn't want to sing, and I can't sing. So we did visit with the residents at Tanglewood Nursing Home. The Sandhill Teen Leadership Club, they served dinner. They did what we called, or at St. John Baptist Church, it was an evening of elegance for the seniors, which is like a prom for the seniors. And what that group of teenagers did, they catered to the seniors that particular night, and it was like that Friday night before Thanksgiving. They catered to the seniors that night for their prom. And I'm proud to announce within that particular leadership club, we have musicians. So 4 of them were also the entertainment for the seniors that night as well. Didn't get anybody to dance though. We were at the church. The Fairfield Central High Robotics, they have created a Griffin Robotics Club. Proud to announce, and which you probably have seen it in the paper, I did put it in my newsletter, but they have been awarded the NASA grant. It's called the 2014 National Aeronautics and Space Administration NASA Robotics Alliance Project. And basically what they got was $6,000 to get them started. Not necessarily for lodging and transportation, and we are asking for more sponsorship, but that's for the parts of the robot registration and I think it was the robot kit registration and the completion or registration fee that they needed to complete. And like I said, we will continue to ask for sponsorship as far as transportation and lodging, because they are going to Myrtle Beach. Let me get it right. February 27th through March 1st to compete in the first robotics competition. Also, on this past Thursday, Fairfield Central Griffin Robotics Club team had the pleasure of meeting a NASA engineer, Mr. Kobe Boykins. He came to, he was on site or on campus at Fairfield Central High last Thursday with the robotics team, and Superintendent Green also had some of the kids from the middle school to come over and hear his presentation. I think the kids were very encouraged by his speech because basically he was there to inspire them and encourage them to continue in science, engineering, and technology. Last but not least, and I'll get out of your way, this Saturday coming, this week, starting today, is National Drug Facts Week. Both of the teen leadership teams, as a part of their community service, we're sponsoring a public forum for teenagers. And this public forum is to shatter the myth of drugs and alcohol in teenage usage. It will be at the Village at Sandhill in Columbia from 1 o'clock to 2:30. So anyone in here, if you have any teenagers or know any teenagers, please bring them to Sandhill on Saturday from 1 to 2:30. We have speakers from the RADAC, South Carolina DJJ. We have the Director of Sports Medicine from the University of South Carolina that will be presenting. Okay? Any questions for me?
No questions. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank you,
Jones.
and y'all have a
One
blessed day.
question.
Councilman Marshall Ray has a
I
question.
just have a compliment.
Thank you.
You're relatively new to this program. You haven't been there a year yet, have you?
No, sir, I have not.
And I'm impressed with what you've done already and what you've just announced to everyone. You hit the ground running, so we needed that program to operate and get something up and running. So
Thank you.
I just want to compliment you. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you, and I appreciate all of you, even when I see you in the street and I speak. Y'all have always been very complimentary. Thank you so very much. God bless you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Jones, and thank you for those comments, Councilman Marshall Ray. Ms. Brown, would you announce our next presenter for us, please?
Yes, of course. From the Midlands Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Institute, we have presenting Dr. Marie Milam and Mr. John Peoples in lieu of Mr. Thomas tonight.
Thank you for this opportunity to be with you. I probably don't need a microphone because I've got the English teacher voice. Thank you again, and Kevin Thomas does send his regrets. He is with his daughter in the emergency room. She's had a slight accident, but she will be fine. So he does send regrets. Tonight we want to talk about Midland STEM Institute and how it came about and answer any questions you might have. So if you advance the slide, I'm not sure how we do that. Okay. It actually came about because of some work Kevin Thomas did with Salkehatchie and what he was working with in Fairfield County. And then Kevin contacted me and we became partners in this venture. So we've been working on this school for about 2 years now. Kevin has a master's. He's in biomedical sales. He is an Air Force National Guardsman, and I'm working on a PhD. I have an EDS and a master's degree, and I've been a former superintendent and deputy superintendent. So how did we get to the school? Well, Kevin saw a cycle of poverty in working with Salkehatchie students. He saw this one young man in a home that they were working in to restore, and the little boy was in a terrible poverty and stricken environment. He had lost his fingers on his hand. He just had a palm. And Kevin realized when he got home, you know, education is the way out of the cycle of poverty. And so that was the birth of the school. That is the only way out for breaking the cycle of poverty. We also looked at private school cost, and we have a good many parents who may be able to afford tuition for one child, but they may not be able to afford it for several children in their families. So that public charter schools offer an alternative to that. With Midland STEM Institute, students will be able to be in a safe school environment, and they'll be able to go K-5 through the 12th grade and graduate. We start with K-5 through 5th grade, and we add a grade each year until we matriculate through 12th grade. So what is a charter school? That's a good question. It is a tuition-free, mission-driven, deregulated independent school of choice, and it's the most accountable form of public government, of public education. And let me explain. Several of you may remember several years ago when the State Department of Education took over a school district in the state. They did that trying to raise test scores, trying to improve the environment for children. They were not successful in that venture. With a private school, there aren't the same constraints there are with a public charter school. With a public charter school, if we do not make the academic gains that we wrote into our charter, we will be shut down. So there's no play there. There's no give us another year. There's no latitude there. It is a very strict form of education. It also provides educators with flexibility that you might not have in a regular public school because you're mission focused, and our mission is STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And I'm going to talk with you about why we got there. So what are the possibilities for students who graduate from Midland STEM Institute. They can go to Midlands Tech, complete a one-year certificate program, and work at BC Summer as a nuclear operator, and that's about a $60,000 a year starting salary with benefits. What does that do for Fairfield County? It breaks the cycle of poverty, and it keeps our students here instead of leaving the county. So we are located pretty centrally. We looked at a couple of locations to begin with and decided we would go to the Greenbrier Mossydale Road facility, and we are breaking ground very soon. You'll see that in the paper. That is the former assisted care facility, and our remodeling is starting in just a few weeks, so we are very excited about that. We chose a central location so parents have an opportunity. Now, our funding, how are we funded? We get state funds, we get federal funds, we get corporate donations, individual donations, federal grants, but we do not get county tax money. So when you pay your property tax, we don't get any of that money. That money stays in the county, and it goes to the public school district, but it does not come to us. Okay. Sports. We plan to add sports in the future. When you're starting with K-5 through 5th grade, that's a small school to begin with, so we can't do sports year out, the first year out the chute, but we will be doing those. We want parents and students to be a part of our process and to have input in also selecting our mascot. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. John Peoples at this point, and then I'll finish up.
Good evening. We greet you in a very fine way. I did do boot camp, so I'm not a stranger in Vietnam. The community need. We see over there that obesity is ranked 3rd out of the 46 counties in Fairfield. We also see that diabetes is ranked 17th of the 46. Violent crime is ranked 7th. And the poverty level is ranked 12th. It is indeed our hope that we'll be able to do what's necessary to change all of that, not just one or two of them. We know that obesity is something that's dangerous in the long run, so we need to do what's necessary to make certain that our young people who enroll in our program receive what's necessary to not be involved in any more obesity if we can end it. Diabetes, same thing. We plan to work with the public, those agencies in Fairfield County who can assist us with our children dealing with obesity and diabetes, because there too is very dangerous. At the same time, we know that violent crime is something that happens all the time. If you watched the television this past week, you saw what happened in Maryland. It's going to be necessary for us to certainly do what's necessary to make certain that our young folk do what's right in our school, so that they can take advantage of what's offered and become self-supporting taxpaying citizens. We will be working with the police department in coming to assist us with keeping them on the right track, and we will try to do our best at doing the bottom line there on poverty. Many of our children go to school and they're not serious about why they're there, but it's our intent to make certain that our young people are there for a purpose so that they can become self-employed. It is also expected that we'll be able to convince them and their parents, and most of our problems exist because of the parents and the lack of parenthood, but we will try to make certain that our parents know that completion of high school is a requirement, and we need to let our children know that. We're not going to allow them to just hang out and come into the school to be taking up time. We want them to be serious about school. We want them to do what's best so that they can become persons who can take care of themselves and don't have to wait for mom and daddy to do what's necessary for them to make it. And then we have to be very concerned about what our children bring into the home. I was listening to the television the other day when the young man who did the shooting in Maryland down the street from where I used to live, the mother said she didn't know he had a gun. We need to find out what our children have. It's important, because it's not only the crowd that they keep, it's those other things that they keep in the house that you and I may not know anything about. So it is our hope that we'll do what's necessary so that these young people will be able to go and make some of that $60,000 that you'll see later on in this program. God bless you.
So if we look at obesity, diabetes, and violent crime, there's a result of poverty. The whole thing stems from poverty, and that's what we've got to address. So our mission is to produce academically and physically fit STEM proficient students. Where are the jobs? The jobs are in STEM education. That's why we chose that. We chose a physical fitness focus because we know we have these health concerns and issues we have to address with our young people. So what is STEM? Science, technology, engineering, math. Just take the first letter of each piece. And why does it make a difference? Well, you'll see a lot of STEM programs, but it's rare to see a STEM school. If you look at some very fine programs here in the county, the Magnet School, they have a math, science, performing arts focus. McCoy Listen has a technology focus. But we're talking about a comprehensive science, technology, engineering, mathematics program all day in everything you do. And that's different from a single focus or double focus program. How do you learn best? How do you learn best? I bet you would tell me, not from what somebody tells you, but I bet you would tell me by doing something. You learn when you have to solve a real world problem. How many of you went to work today and did exactly what you did yesterday, or last week, or the day before? You didn't. You had a whole new set of issues to deal with. So you're constantly problem solving. That's what we've got to teach our children. Real world problem solving. So, STEM careers. We're working with businesses to look at their needs and the skill sets that they need for employability. And what they don't tell you on job applications is they also need soft skill sets. Those things like punctuality, proper dress, manners, those things are important too. So you have to have the academic end, you have to have the technical skills, but you also have to have the soft skill sets. So where do we train for the future? Here's where the jobs are. Engineering, biomedical and nanotechnology, physiology and anatomy, robotics, alternative energy sources. How many of you filled up a gas tank in the last couple of days? Did your price go down at the pump? Did it stay down? We've got to find alternative energy sources. Well, who's going to come up with that? That's our children. That's who we have to educate and train to come up with alternative energy sources. And health and fitness is huge. We can't keep going with the same rate of obesity and asthma and diabetes and those kinds of issues. So we have to work forward. So why STEM? Because the careers are there. Because it enables our students to stay in Fairfield County and grow Fairfield County economically. Because it provides stability. Not just economic stability, but lifestyle stability. It supports economic growth and it supports the development of Fairfield. Instead of people turning to go home on the interstate, they'll stay here. And that's what we want. Okay, so what are our innovations? We have a traditional grade structure, 18 students per class, and we have a multi-age grade structure. If you look at the new Common Core standards, they very well lend themselves to multi-age, and that's why we chose that as well. Parents will have a choice, a comprehensive STEM curriculum, Project Lead the Way, engineering program, and physical fitness every day, and that means all of us. That's me too, because I need to get in there with Pacer and get more physically fit. Okay, so typical day, 8 to 3, Monday through Friday, STEM curriculum, which is project-based learning, our Common Core standards, which we're required to implement by state guidelines, lifetime fitness skills, and art, music, media, the things kids are used to. Lunch, but not just any lunch, healthy lunch choices. Our before and after school programs, and you'll see before and after school programs, but do those programs target specifically what students are deficient in? So we're talking about one-on-one and small group programs for before and after school with individual support. And so here's some examples. We do STEM in the gym. In kindergarten through 5th grade, students learn the 7 simple types of machines and how they can make your life easier. Now, for those of you who are mechanically minded, if you take that small blue gear and you think of a bottom of a chair with rollers on it, and you put a heavy student like me in the chair, and you put a lighter student cranking a cord to pull that chair bottom to you, then you're going to make a lot of rotations with that little blue gear. It's going to be a lot of work, but you can do it. If you use the yellow gear, you're going to make fewer rotations, but it's going to be harder to turn. But if you put those 2 gears together, you can move a lot of weight and you can move it fast. So those are the kinds of things students will be learning at STEM in the gym. And then rocketry. How many of you would like to launch a rocket? How many of you would look at that and realize that's a protractor and you need a trajectory angle so that when you launch your rocket, you can figure out how to take your rocket apart, redesign it, and make it faster and more efficient. And that's done with a straw, modeling clay bottlenose, and paper fins. So, but it's the before and after and the doing that gets kids involved in things like that. Another example, intelligent fuel cell car. Students have to make this car run, but they cannot use mathematics. They can't use typical fuel, no gasoline. Another example, Project Lead the Way, students working on engineering. These students are trying to make an aquatic mobile, something that runs on land and on water. And then engineering, how important is that to Fairfield County? Very important. So that's the Project Lead the Way piece. And so, questions. Apply tonight. Mr. Peoples has applications. If you are interested in signing your students up, the deadline for our lottery is February 1st, which is right upon us. You can visit us at our website, www.midlandstem.org. Visit our storefront downtown on Congress Street in the old furniture store. Look for our billboards, or you can call us. So, questions?
Council, you've heard Ms. Milam and Mr. Peoples both present tonight. Do you have any questions for Ms. Milam once she's at Councilman Trapp?
Yes, Ms. Milam, could you explain to me the funding? You say you're receiving state funds. How would that actually work?
State funds are issued by the State Department of Education. They flow through the State Department of Education, and they're given to individual school districts based on what they call a weighted pupil count. Those monies stay with those students wherever those students may go, as long as they're in a public system. We are a public charter, so we qualify for those funds. And of course, federal funds, Title I funds, Title III funds for ESOL students. Those funds would go because they also follow the student. Any grants we get, any donations we get are just like what you would give to a public school. It works the same way. What we don't get is the tax funds that would come from property taxes.
So if a student leave out of one of the Fairfield County School District schools and go to your school, that fund, the funding that he normally receives from the state would go to your school?
The funding that they normally receive from the state would be the same and go wherever that student went in the state. So if they left Fairfield County and they went to Chester County, it'd go to Chester. So yes, that funding will go. What we don't get is any revenues from, for instance, the nuclear power plants that are coming online, which will be huge revenues for the public school district, but that's local and we won't get those funds. They will more than replace anything that the local school district might lose.
Also, does the racial makeup of your school will have to mirror the racial makeup of the county?
Yes, and that's written into our charter.
How many students you already have that have applied?
We are about a little over halfway. Our projected enrollment year one is 162 students. We'll add 27 students each year until we reach 12th grade, through 12th grade.
And this program is totally different from the one that's offered at the,
This program is a comprehensive program, not focused on one single area of STEM education, but on total STEM education. So everything students do every day is STEM-based. It's not that we're just doing robotics, or we're just doing this piece or that piece. We're doing comprehensive STEM. So it's science, technology, engineering, math, all day.
thank you very much.
Ms. Kinley?
Thank you, Ms. Milam, good presentation.
Thank you.
Tell me, how was your school board selected?
The school board is selected according to state charter law. The planning board became the board, the people that were originally selected. We've added 2 additional board members, Mr. Peoples and Ms. Thomasina Holdway.
And transportation, will that be provided for the students?
State charter law does not allow us to provide transportation. Parents may organize transportation, but it is prohibited by state charter law at the current time.
And I heard you mention the security or the safety for the kids at school, and I know that's such a big issue and an expense for the public schools and private schools. How will you address the security problem?
That's an excellent question. I'm very glad you asked it. We're working with our architects so that when the school is designed, there are safety mechanisms put into place so there is no direct access by the public to the students. So if you look at the new design of schools, there is a buzz-in only component, so you actually have to be allowed to enter the school. And with security cameras and all the safety regulations that we can possibly consider, that's in the planning phase with our architects, and we've discussed that at length. That is a very important issue.
It's a big concern for parents.
And a small school, you have a little bit of an advantage because you're in a smaller area and you have a little bit more monitoring capability. When things get very large, it's hard to monitor sometimes.
By what process are your students selected for entrance to the school?
Students can apply, and when we reach the capacity, 27 per grade level, 18 in the class, but 27 per grade level, then that grade fills up. It's first come, first served. If we have more applications than we have slots available, a lottery will be held, a public lottery, and it'll be a hand-drawn lottery. And we will not, no employee or board member will draw a number. That'll be done by an outside party.
Talk to me a little bit about your teachers.
Well, we're in the process of hiring right now, so we're looking at local people. We are also looking at people outside of Fairfield County. So it takes a while to hire people and hire them right. Human resources is a very important area, and you do not want to make an employment mistake. So we are very careful in how we screen, interview, select, and run background checks.
The Title I services, will that be provided by Fairfield County? As far as your handicap and your...
Well, we're talking Title I and handicap aren't the same.
As far as, do what now?
Title I and handicapped aren't the same.
Okay, as far as your hearing,
Oh,
speech,
sure.
which
We fall under the same regulations as public school. So we will be seeking service providers. We will also have a special education teacher who works a caseload for students who have any handicapping condition. We do not deny admission to any handicapped student. We fall under the same regulations as any other public entity in that regard. So we will have provisions for special needs students, and we gladly accept them.
Ms. Milam, I have a question. I know that the school system currently has a STEM program, and I would think that Mr. Green and his staff are probably proud of that STEM program.
Certainly.
Was there any type of collaboration or communication with the current school district in the STEM Institute around the new STEM program that you would be bringing with the charter school?
We are certainly open to that. That came up at a meeting, an informational meeting we had in which Mr. Green was present, and we have an open invitation that we are open to any collaboration that the school district might want to consider.
Okay, next question I have, will your charter school need any type of support or approval from council?
I can't answer that question yet because of the facility being under construction, and I don't know the answer to that. But we will certainly, everybody petitions county council for something, so I would say look for us.
Thanks, Ms. Myler. Are there any more questions from Councilman Monterey?
Yes, I think in your presentation, when it outlined where the funds coming from, state, federal, and all, that last statement said you wouldn't be seeking any funds from the council or county?
We do not get property tax money. When you pay your home taxes, your vehicle taxes, we are not entitled to that money. A portion of your tax bill goes to public education. We don't get any of those funds.
So the statement is kind of ambiguous in the way it was presented, no funds from the county, but I'm hearing you saying something different.
I don't think so. We don't get any property tax money. We don't get any revenues that are generated locally from tax dollars.
I didn't read it like that. I didn't think you were talking about property taxes. BC, somebody mentioned that you said you wasn't seeking no funds, I thought, from the county.
Well, we're always, if the county decides, oh, we're going to replace office equipment and we can spare this, we will definitely take donations. We're allowed to take donations.
Yes. You said most accountable form of public education. What documentation you have to substantiate that? What studies have been saying that if you bring this into being, that is better than the public school system, is more comprehensive? What factual information you can give us to substantiate that?
I would say research the South Carolina Public Charter School Law. Your charter is based on academic goals, and you must meet those goals to stay in business.
Yes, I want.
So when we write our goals, we went through an approval process that from the state charter board. We went to a hearing, then we were approved by the state charter board, and then we were approved by the South Carolina State Department of Education. Our goals are stringent. They are not 0.5% gain a year and that kind of thing. They are very stringent goals.
Would you say out of these studies that charter schools are better than public schools, and what evidence you have to substantiate that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Schools are as good as the leadership and the organizations that support them. They can be wonderful institutions, whether they're public, private, or public charter, and they can be terrible institutions. On the same vein. So a lot of it has to do with the actual school makeup itself. So that's almost, would you choose this church or choose that church? I really can't answer that except to say that we've researched where the jobs are, and the jobs are in STEM education. We've researched the long-term economic goals for Fairfield County and what will benefit Fairfield County. Losing our best and brightest students each year and them not staying in Fairfield County predominantly is not in the best interest of the county. So we've looked at that. We've done our homework.
Don't give me information about statistical information. I'm asking you. You are giving me a conversation. You're not answering my questions about the information I asked. And if you're going to, I think someone asked about hiring teachers. If you hire teachers, are it going to be commensurable with their advocate now that teachers in South Carolina are paid $9,000 to $10,000 less than nationally, that you will come up to par paying teachers what the national level would be?
Well, our budget is based on the southeastern average, and that's what most pay scales are based on in the southeast.
They're underpaid, and I understand that legislators or assembly has said over the next few years they're going to try to bring that in compliance with the national level. What's your plan for doing that?
We don't have a plan for bringing things to the national level because we don't have that kind of power. we can lobby and we can work toward that goal, and we'll be glad to do that. We are doing that. But we can't do that single-handedly. That's going to be a collective effort of a lot of people. And yes, teachers are underpaid. I've been one for a long, long time.
I'm trying to understand. You had McCoy Listen, you got a magnet school, the superintendent has started a STEM program, and all of them around technology, the enhancing that, and the children. What's significantly different than when you say comprehensive? What they're doing is comprehensive. What is different?
Well, let's take an example, and that might clarify. In kindergarten, one of the modules we use is community. That's a South Carolina social studies standard. Kindergartners study community. That's a big encompassing standard. So in our program, students create a map, and we work on scale. We work on the mathematics of their community. They create a floor map, and then they do travel and distance and time, and then they write about that in their science journals. Then they go back and they improve what would we like to see in our community and how can we improve our community. So instead of teaching, and you probably had this experience, when you went to school, my guess is you sat at a desk and listened to a teacher lecture. This is not like that. This is students actually doing. This is hands-on learning. It's not traditional education. They're not us. We can't teach them the same way. So when we talk about comprehensive STEM, instead of teaching English, math, science, social studies, these things separately, we teach a module based on a STEM concept, and everything we do revolves around that concept so that you grow students over time. And when you have a small school, you can do that. It's very difficult when you have, when you inherit something or you try to put something together versus starting it from scratch. So that makes us unique. Multi-age makes us unique.
One other question I have, and I got several more, but I'll ask this one question. You said something about a lottery, that's how they get into the program. When they do the lottery, are there any tests? Are the kids tested? The parents are not
No.
just come as you are and then we'll educate you?
If you have applied and you are student number 28 and we have 27 slots, we will have a lottery for that grade level to see which students get in. There is no testing, there is no grade point average, you don't have to have a perfect attendance record from the past, you don't have to be a perfect disciplined student to get in. We hold a lottery if we have more students than we have slots available. And no member of the board, and not me either, can draw the student's name out of that lottery. So it would be similar to Powerball. If you want to think about it that way, an independent person will draw. We will not draw. Because we can't. It would be unethical for us to do that. It has to be an independent person who decides who gets to come based on the applications for that grade level.
Thank you, Ms. Milam. Councilman Garcia, yeah,
One more
okay,
question.
all right. Councilman Marsharia.
You have a list up of I'll say diseases, diabetes, and poverty, and all those other things. Did I understand you to say that illness caused poverty? Or would you
No.
put that back up and show, what was the relationship between that and poverty?
Let me repeat that. Health issues and crime are directly correlated to poverty. Poverty results in a lot of social maladies.
And what's the primary cause of poverty?
Well, I mean, lack of education and lack of opportunity.
Really? Thank you very much.
Councilman Marsharia, do you have any more questions?
I have somebody already go too.
Okay. Are there any more questions from council?
I have one more, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councilman
What
Trapp.
happens if you have to go through a lottery with all your grade levels and the racial makeup don't mirror the county's racial makeup?
Well, in public charter school law, and this is not the case in other programs, in public charter school law, if a sibling gets in, the siblings of that child also are accepted in. So there's not parents driving to 3 and 4 different schools to accommodate their children. So if we have more students than we have slots, we hold the lottery. And then those students who have siblings are excluded from that lottery because they've already been accepted. For instance, if I have a 5th grade, let's say I have a 2nd grade student, a 4th grade student, and a 5th grade student. Let's say my 5th grade student gets in and my 4th grade student gets in, but my 2nd grade student gets in automatically because they are siblings to the 4th and 5th grader. So that takes a slot. And that is done for parents. That is done to make a cohesive unit for parents.
But what my question was, if you have to do a lottery with each grade level, and it come out, the majority of the students are either black or the majority of them are white, that doesn't mirror the image of the population of the county, what do you do then? Because you say your charter states that you have to mirror the image of the county.
Right, but our applicants are already mirrored in the county. So the students that we have, who have applied, already mirror the county. They came from the county.
Yeah, I understand that part, but I'm talking about the percentage of the county is 60% African American, 40% white. If you get 70% black students, you're still not mirroring the county's population, so what do you do?
Well,
Do you take those out of the slot if they was
No.
chosen in the lottery?
we don't. And that would be when we would have to rely on the South Carolina Public Charter School District to help us to figure out how to best handle that. So far, we haven't had that issue, and I don't foresee that we will.
Just in case you do, I thought maybe.
If we do, we have a
Charter
Right.
saying that it had to be a mirror image of the county
It is,
population.
yes, it is. But if you look at who's applied, the students came from here. They came from here and surrounding areas.
Yeah, I understand that part. I'm talking about the
Right.
population.
Can I tell you that each grade level is going to be exactly 60-40? No, but it's not going to be that in public school either.
I know the grade level probably not, but school-wide,
School-wide, it will be.
not in balance, what do you do?
We go to the charter school, public charter school district, and they help us resolve the problem so it does become balanced. That's what's in the law.
Are you finished, Councilman Trapp?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Mr.
thank
Chairman.
you. Ms. Mallon, thank you for coming out, and Mr. Peoples, thank you for as well. This will conclude our public presentation session of the agenda, and we will move down to item number 6, which is public comment. Just want to remind you, there's a time limit of 3 minutes, and the comment must pertain to items on the agenda. So, Ms. Brown?
For County Council and members of the public, the following individuals have signed to speak tonight. Mr. William Coleman on land sale, followed by Mr. Jeff Schaefer on Drawdy Park, and then Mr. Randy Bright on Drawdy Park.
Thank you, and members of council. I'm William Coleman, a voter, taxpayer, and I live in the Blair area of District 3. My remarks this evening concern the proposed sale of property owned by the county. I have several questions that I feel need to be answered about this property and the sale of it. First, it has been referred to being a 405-acre parcel and that 402 acres are for sale. Why is there a difference in what's going to happen to the other 3 acres? Second question is, what was the purchase price of this property when the county bought it? And does the county have any additional monies tied up in it? And do you have appraisals to know what it should sell for? It has been mentioned that this property that's to be sold is to be used for a retirement complex. And wouldn't that limit the number of potential buyers and possibly result in a lesser amount of money that the property might bring. If that is the case, would that be doing what is best for the taxpayers of this county? Fourth is, if it is limited to only a sale for a retirement center, would that be the best interest of getting the full benefit of income from taxes from this property? My concern in this question is if it is in fact developed for a retirement complex and parcels are cut out and sold to retirees for them to build individual retirement homes, wouldn't most of those doing so be homestead exempted, which would be less tax money coming into the treasury, but with the same amount of cost to the county as someone not homestead exempted? And with this location, do you really think it will help the economy of this county? Would they spend money in this county? Probably not, once again, considering the location. And the next point is, what will you do with the proceeds from the sale of this property? Could we possibly have some tax relief from this sale? It is past time for some tax relief and get away from this spend mentality. Give it back to the taxpayers. Send a message that you are going to return to financial responsibility. With all the waste that has been exposed lately, I think it would be a good move to do so. I hope that you members of council have thought long and hard about this sale and what the outcome will be. How about some transparency here? Please tell the citizens all of what is going on. I don't think that Fairfield County needs any more blunders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coleman. Ms. Brown?
Mr. Schaefer? Mr. Jeff Schaefer?
Good evening, council,
Good evening.
fellow citizens. I missed a few meetings. I'll be brief. I'm not prepared. I just saw Geordie Park and I felt that I needed to just get up and talk to you. I have some documentation in front of me. I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I'm sure I'm going to get an answer. On 3/3/2012, there was a check written out for $11,275 to S2 for Geordie Park survey engineering study. Is more than twice, and he states is more than twice the size originally given. Also, some boundary claims were discussed. So the check number 24602 was for $11,275. Then they had an architectural and engineering design and layout and drawings for Geordie Park, $39,750. By the way, I understand that we didn't have any drawings or permits or inspections for Geordie Park. I was out of town, but I know that for a fact because I asked Mr. Ron Stowers to show them to me. He didn't have them, but yet we're paying $40,000, excuse me, $39,750, $250 short. I'll throw the $250 in to make it $40 for architectural, engineering, design, layout, and drawings, and we don't have it, and you paid $40,000 for it? And you just got finished questioning this young lady who came up and politely told you all the things you could possibly ask, and everybody had a question for it, but nobody's got a question for us too. Nobody's got a question for the permits, inspections, for anything. Substantiate things, document them, back it up, doing your homework, conversations, ask lots of questions. Did anyone do that for Geordie Park? And by the way, Mrs. Kinley, I understand Geordie Park is in your district. I am not in your district, so I don't hold you personally responsible, but I'd love to know how that got started, who started it, why we got it. Another football field, it's a disaster. I'm going to quit with a minute left, and you can tack it on my time later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Ms. Brown?
Mr. Randy Bright?
Randy Bright, District 1, Ridgeway, South Carolina. If the various news accounts are accurate, the Geordie Park football field calamity provides us with a truly emblematic example of why our county received low performance ratings from the Population Health Institute, the Lucy Burns Institute, the 2010 Economic Development Plan, Ballotpedia, South Carolina Department of Revenue, South Carolina Department of Education, real estate websites Zillow and Trulia, Robert Wood Foundation, the South Carolina Association of Counties, and others. Additionally, our taxpayer burden and proportionate government spending are among the worst in the state. Indeed, these third-party rankings point to serious problems of management in our government. Poor business practices, including weak planning, lack of oversight, and little follow-up, again, have manifested another disastrous result in Fairfield County at Drawdy Park. The Drawdy Park calamity screams for answers to the following questions. Why was S2 assigned to manage the project rather than required to bid for it? Why was the site selected in light of its obvious extension remediation requirements? Why were the plans dated 12 days prior to the wall collapse? Why did the project go over budget, counting the fence and county resource expenditures? Why was rain blamed for the collapse when no other known structural damage occurred during this time? What investigative processes are underway? Why was government so oblivious to the project's obvious flaws and wastes while the electorate was keenly aware of the impending disastrous results? Will there be consequences for the failings manifested by vendors and county associates alike? Will there be process, policy, and procedural changes implemented as a result of the lessons learned from this disaster? Will the aforementioned changes be publicly announced, and when? Will we get extended warranties on Drawdy Park considering the initial shoddy work? Again, I must echo Jeff's sentiments. You guys did the best job I've ever seen in grilling somebody and getting answers. But obviously S2, obviously people involved with this project, and obvious in a lot of other projects, we don't give this kind of attention to detail for what runs this county, and that's why our county is rated among the worst in South Carolina by all these third-party institutions. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Bright. Ms. Brown, is there anyone else?
Yes, sir, that's all.
Well, that concludes our public comment. There are no public hearings for item 7. There are no ordinance. We've been sent our board and commission minutes. Item 10, there are no board and commission appointments. Item 11, old business. Mr. Pope, would you like to address that for me, please, sir?
Yes, sir, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, council. Good evening, citizens of Fairfield County. And first, let me say regarding this matter that's on the agenda, the Economic Development Committee, which is a duly authorized committee of council of county council, met on 1/6/14 of this year, and the property that was purchased, what we're referencing tonight, was purchased back in 2002. And I'd also like to point out that per the discussion, at least the discussions with the county members of the Economic Development Committee, there are no plans at this particular time for the county to transform into a retirement community. At the time when the property was purchased, I think that the county had plans or some discussions about the property being some type of retirement village at that particular time. There are no plans that are underway that references anything about this property becoming a retirement village at this particular time. Also, I'd like to mention publicly that this property, of course, and to be quite candid with you, I was not aware that this particular property was in our inventory, but there was a local realtor that brought a proposal to the county that initiated a discussion regarding this piece of property. That's what prompted the meeting of the Economic Development Committee. That information was brought to the committee. However, no agreement was ever entered into with the party that actually brought the proposal to the county. No agreement was ever signed as far as that goes. The committee itself met and discussed the matter, and from my understanding at the time in 2002, there were several concessions made to property owners that had property adjacent or close to this particular property. I mean, folks were concerned with what type of development would be there, how that development would possibly impact their property. And so the county council took those matters under consideration. I think even at one time there was some efforts made to possibly rezone the property. That, of course, I think there was quite a hearing of folks who appeared at that time and did not want that property rezoned. So therefore, some of the discussions that came out about the property, the council wanted to be sensitive to those people and those citizens that had expressed an interest or concern at that particular time. So in the final recommendation, and that's all that the committee can do, the economic committee can do, is to actually recommend. And a motion came forward from the Economic Development Committee that was as follows. It was moved by Councilmember Robinson and seconded by the Vice Chairman Perry to offer for public sale 400 of 2 acres of land to remain zone RD. That's the present zoning was on the property, consistent with the terms drafted by the county attorney. In reference to a question that was asked why there was 402 acres instead of the 405 acres, there was also a discussion at the subcommittee meeting regarding the possibility of 3 acres of the property being possibly considered for some type of a mini park, if that could go into the proposal. So that's where that information came from. The council actually mentioned this information publicly at a previous meeting, and then suggested that it be forwarded to the county council for a vote on the night of the 27th. Therefore, based upon that background, the item that's before the county council is to consider whether or not the council wants to offer for public sale the 405 acres of property to the public. If in fact the council were to go along with the recommendation for the public sale, of course the county would have to go through its due diligence of getting appraisals on the property, and also because of course the property has other values such as timber value and other things like that, and also to be able to market the property to the highest bidder. Discussions, of course, the council would have to finally decide this, but as far as the proceeds that were initially made on the property, because actually when it was first purchased, there were some timber sales from the property when it was first purchased. There was a cutting of property. Those proceeds, I believe, if I recall correctly, went into economic development purposes at that particular time. And that was the discussion as to how these funds could possibly be used prospectively if, in fact, the council decided to actually offer the property for public sale, and if it was purchased. Of course, the council does not have to, even if we send it out for public sale, does not have to accept any offer, but it would have to be appropriate based on the terms and conditions that they would authorize the administrator to seek. So the matter before you is the committee recommendation is to decide whether or not that the county still wants to offer the 405 acres of property for public sale to the public. And just to mention again, there are no pending contracts or offers to be considered on this. This just would be an outright piece of property that was under investment opportunities that the council purchased back in 2002. I'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. As Mr. Pope stated, the Economic Development Committee met. We discussed this property in detail. The recommendation came that we actually give the administrator, Mr. Pope, to open this property up for sale, to be considered for sale. So I need a motion from council to move forward with the Economic Development's recommendation.
As a member of the committee that met on this, I make the motion that it be offered for sale.
Do I have a second?
Second.
You've heard the motion and it's been properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Ms. Robinson?
As Mr. Pope said, this property was purchased back in 2002, I believe. It was a good buy. Supposedly, the majority of council thought that this property needed to be purchased. At that time, they were going to consider putting it into an industrial park, and the powers that be and the citizens that live down that way literally raised hell, which you have a right to do. So, during the time that I was off, the council in its wisdom decided that they would try to
market it as a facility for adults, a retirement village. That's been on the table, I guess, since probably '05. It has gone nowhere. And we have cut that timber once, I think maybe every third tree. That money was put into economic development, I understand, while I was off council. And we had an offer that came before us the other night. The gentleman that offered it sent word that he only bought timber in this county for growth of trees and for his retirement plan. Therefore, it could stay in RD1. This is a very hilly piece of property with lots of valleys. It's not conducive to big construction down there without moving a lot of land. And if we had the opportunity to sell it, I honestly think that it's in the best interest of this county to go ahead and sell it and reuse those funds for continued economic development, because I believe that's where the original money came from, was from an economic development property, or the funds for economic development. I think at this point, we could probably go down there and clear cut that property, and because of the lay of the land, we're going to have a major wash and ruin the property, and we could see some money. But it's going to take another 20 years before that property would grow trees in order to go back and cut it again. So if we have someone who's interested in coming in and buying that property at fair market value, that would be appraised value, then I think it's in the best interest of us to look at that and to know that right now it's RD, and the only way that property could be changed is to come before this council again and go through the planning commission and ask them to consider rezoning it. And I don't believe that would happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. We've had the motion. It's been properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? With no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Chair.
You've got your instructions to...
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Brown is trying to get your attention for an extension.
And let me explain that. When we bought this piece of property, I either abstained or either didn't vote for it. Because I normally don't vote on any land issues where something is being sold, because I've been in the real estate business for 35 years, and for some reason, if something is sold in this county, I'm responsible for it. In this case, I'm not, and that's why, because people assume that I'm always involved, that's why I've always abstained from voting on real estate matters, and that's why I'm abstaining from voting on real estate matters today, because I don't believe in conflicts of interest, and I don't have one now, but I'm still voting as an abstention instead of voting yea or nay.
Ms. Brown, so you have 5, 4, and 1 abstention in Mr. Brown. Right?
We have a 5, a what?
5, 4?
Oh, 5, 4, F-O-R.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, sir, thank you.
You got it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Thank you very much. We'll move down to item number 12, new business.
Mr. Chairman, just want to conclude the comments on that particular agenda item is that staff will be working with the procurement process, and there will be a very public and transparent process regarding the public offering of people who desire to offer for purchase of the property. And also, one of the things that myself and our economic development director will be working on is actually getting a marketing package where we can actually send that out so we can get the best possible return for that, because that would be an investment based upon what the taxpayers allowed us to do.
Thank you, Mr. Pope. Moving down to item number 12, new business. We have a request for an extension of a deadline for applying for agricultural land use property for the 2013 tax year. Must apply on or before February 17th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. It's been properly moved in second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
just wanted to comment on this. I know of very few counties in the state that offer this very citizen-friendly extension. Certainly just wanted to point that out. I was kind of surprised when some of the staff members told me about this, and I was saying, no, you. But this is very citizen-friendly, and of course, with that approval, we'll actually get the advertisements and whatnot in the papers to make sure that people citizens are aware of the extension.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pope. We're now down to...
Mr. Jeff, I was looking at all of the sales in Fairfield County the other night on our website, and there are numerous, a lot of them, where people are registered to be paying 6% on farmland. So if properties have changed hands and you hadn't gone back in and registered for agricultural use, please do so. Because from the way the sales catalog looks, about half of the timberland and farmland in this county is going to be taxed at 6%. So make sure, if you know anybody who's bought or sold land this year or last year, to make sure they go by tax assessors out and make sure it's registered.
Mr. Brown, thank you very much for bringing that up, and that is a very valid point. No other comments. Moving down to item number 13. Mr. Pope, it's time for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Council. The first item is our FY 2012-2013 audit that's presented by Elliott Davis, Mr. Tom McNeish. And while he's coming up, I just want the council just to recognize, I want to recognize two women back in the back here. I want to recognize Ms. Laura Johnson and Ms. Ann Bass. These are our staff members who are responsible for our financials here at the county. They do a great job for Fairfield County, and I just want to say they are two very qualified individuals, and I'm very proud to have them on this staff. Thank you. Mr. McNeish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. We're, as you know, presenting the financial statement audit for fiscal year ended June 30, 2013. As we always discuss, but I think it's always important, the purpose of what you have us doing and the primary users of your financial information. We essentially are issuing three reports. The first of which is the opinion on the financial statements, the numbers and the notes, as to whether they are properly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And really all those principles are the financial reporting mechanism that's used by any local government and as proclamated by what's called the GASB Board or the Government Accounting Standards Board. So we have issued what's called an unmodified opinion. It used to be called an unqualified opinion, but GASB changed the terminology there. Essentially what that says is, based on the testing that we performed for the numbers are fairly stated in terms of your balance sheet, your income statement, and the footnotes that are in the financial statements. So essentially what we're doing there is we're going in behind the folks that Mr. Pope just mentioned, who prepare the general ledger and what becomes the financial statements, and we go back behind them to look to see that those numbers are properly stated, again, in accordance with GAAP. So we have issued an unmodified opinion on the numbers. The second report that we issue is on compliance with federal grant requirements. So for fiscal year 13, the county expended approximately a little over $900,000 in federal grants. Those granting agencies are going to expect that for your major programs, and major is designated by the amount. So I think for this year we concentrated on the airport improvement program. We look at the grant document, we look at the federal requirements, and we compare that to the purpose and method in which the funds were spent to determine whether there were any major non-compliance issues with those expenditures. For that particular report, the second report that we're talking about tonight, we did not find any major compliance issues in terms of those funds being spent in accordance with the policy of the granting agencies. That's important, obviously, to the agencies in that if those funds were not spent in accordance with their requirements, the county would possibly have to strike a check back to the granting agency to return those funds. The third report that we're required to issue for the county as a governmental entity, and we have to do this for any financial statement audit that we perform, has to do with your internal controls of your financial reporting and your processes and procedures and your compliance with basic matters. Now, the reason that's included as a report, the Comptroller General of the U.S., who issues the Yellow Book standards that we follow when we perform an audit, they want us to make sure as your audit firm that we strongly considered your processes and procedures and your internal controls as part of what we do in our audit. Now, we are not opining on the processes and procedures for the county. That's not the idea, and the code is very specific about that. But if we come across instances that we consider to be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the process of performing our audit procedures, we are required to report those to you. And we do have several of those based on the audit for fiscal year 2013. The types of the findings that we have basically fall into three buckets. One is compliance with either the county's policy or statutes that the county is required to follow. So that's your compliance bucket. Secondly is their proper segregation of duties over any given transaction or function in the county. So in other words, if I'm someone who's initiating a transaction or input into a system, is there another employee that's going behind me to make sure that I don't have access to full control over a transaction or a function? Is there some oversight on a transaction and functional basis in the day-to-day procedures that happen with your financial reporting? That's the second bucket. Finally, is there good reconciliation practice in place? So what we look at there is, for the numbers that appear in the financial statements, is there a good transaction detail ledger that is reconciled on a monthly basis so that we always know we have support for those numbers and we can pick from that transaction detail to look at source documentation. So we had findings under each of these areas. And the idea here is, as we've talked about before, we're required to report these to you, and we always want to see on our follow-up for the subsequent year's audit whether those have been addressed. Now, we have two repeat findings from fiscal year 2012. Those would be ones of particular concern that we would like to see remedy when we come back in for 2014. The first of those does have to do with procurement, with proper bidding of contracts. And what we need to see in those instances is documentation. So everything we do, we're looking at on a historical basis. So we're going to want to see that there are requisitions, purchase orders, even if we're looking at council minutes for approval by you as a governing body. These are things that we look for, particularly if it's an estimated project that's in excess of $25,000 as expressed by your procurement policy. So those are the type of documents that for a number of transactions we didn't see those required documents. We think that's something that we'd like to see concentrated on for when we come back next year. I think that it's that documentation. Really, our rule is very simple. If it's not documented, it wasn't done. Now, that doesn't mean that maybe, in fact, it did occur, but we have to see that evidential audit matter in the form of documentation, and that's why documenting these projects and these transactions is so important. Another statutory compliance issue that I think has been vetted based on discussions during your meetings back in the fall, back in September, has to do with local option sales tax. Our two main issues based on that discussion were, number one, that a millage reduction should not be employed to affect the local option or the tax relief, and secondly, that a consistent reasonable or applicable consistent format is used to estimate the amounts that you're going to be receiving from the state in the form of sales tax. So what we did in terms of follow-up, we did look at and reconcile or make sure it was reconciled the tax bills that went out this past fall for the current fiscal year that amount agreed to and did not include